Welcome to Ali Fitness Podcast, a weekly production all about bringing health into fitness. Joe Vennare is an accomplished fitness professional and content strategist who has scaled additional teams for digital and print publications. As the co-founder and COO of Fitt, Joe oversees content, culture, and operations. He also writes Fitt Insider, a newsletter focused on the business of fitness and wellness. So Fitt helps users find fitness studios, healthy eats, outdoor adventures, and upcoming events in 30 cities across the US, Canada, and the UK. Available on the web and iOS, Fitt is your local guide to health and fitness. So check it out at www.fitt.co. And Fitt Insider, like I mentioned, is a weekly newsletter dedicated to the business of fitness and wellness, and that's at insider.fitt.co. So, Joe, thank you so much for coming on and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, look, I was really excited to come across your website because I actually personally developed a similar business. Unfortunately, just as we were going to sell it actually got hacked. So in two different locations, which is unbelievable, unheard of, Australia and New York, where the servers were. But I was so excited to see that someone has actually come out with a really good product. 'Cause there's a fair few out there now, but none of which I find are very good when doing a search. So from a client's point of view, this looks like a very comprehensive database and also really great content. So first of all, I guess I just want to ask you, how did you even come about starting Fitt?
Yeah, it's well, I appreciate all the kind words, and I'm glad that you like what you see so far. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey, to say the least. One that started, actually, I was a high school history teacher, so much different than any path in health and fitness. I did that for a few years. At some point along the way, my father was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. And at that point, my brother, Anthony, who's the CEO of the company, I'm the COO, and he's my co-founder. He was actually in the Marine Corps. So I quit my teaching job. Anthony got a hardship discharge from the Marine Corps, and we both came home to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to help take care of our mom, be with our dad before he passed away. And after that, his passing launched us into a career of both entrepreneurship and health and fitness. Anthony being in the Marine Corps, doing combat training, being an instructor for pre-deployment. And then myself, I was a college football player and then college football or high school football coach when I was teaching. We both obviously had an interest in athletics and fitness. So we started training people in, outdoor spaces around the community. We started doing in-home personal training, and eventually kind of built up enough of a reputation to open a physical gym. So we opened a 12,000 square foot CrossFit gym and a functional training studio. And over the course of 2 years, we grew that into about 400 members. And then at some point along the way, kind of made the decision that having a physical gym wasn't the best opportunity, that if we could connect more people to, health and fitness kind of in the broadest sense of the word, wherever they were, not just in one particular gym in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that was a much more intriguing business and just, way to add value for us than having one location. So, kind of a winding path to the start of the idea of Fitt. But I guess it wouldn't have happened any other way.
Yeah. So, Joe, did you start off just by creating content and then come up with the idea of these events, or how did it sort of form?
Yeah. Initially, when I was, we were training at the gym, I was also freelance writing, just as a way to build, some type of authority in the industry, but also honestly as a way to make money. And over time, kind of establishing myself as a freelance writer and content creator, people locally and, outside of where I was would ask, where do you go for a run? Where do you go to the farmer's market? Where do you go, to get your running shoes and things like that? So just casually, we started like a totally separate blog from the gym and all of those things, and started posting some of those things. So people would ask questions, I would kind of reply to them. And then we started posting some of those replies in Pittsburgh, so the best run routes in Pittsburgh or the best hiking trails. And it just started very organically.
Yeah. And so where is it at now?
Yeah. So we're about going on 3 years. So about 2.5 years into running Fitt as what we refer to as like a real company, aside from, just posting it as a hobby and playing around with the idea locally. So to this point, we've raised a couple $1 million in, friends and family money, early stage money, and have grown to 14 full-time employees. We have basically engineering and design department for the product. We have a content creation team. And then we have, hundreds of contributors on the ground in each city that we cover. So about 30 cities now, who help us uncover all of the best local, fitness studios, healthy restaurants, juice bars, gyms, events that are coming up, outdoor adventures. There really are eyes and ears on the ground. They help us create that content. Our team internally curates, vets, fact checks, makes it all, what we say, look and sound the Fitt voice. And then we distribute it, our team from a content perspective.
I know a lot of our listeners would love to help you out with that role. And I see you actually advertise that role a bit, that one where they're working for you on the ground and finding out all the best gyms, and they know their area as well, I guess. So how would someone go about working for you in that capacity? And is that a freelance role or?
Yeah, so there's both freelance roles and kind of part-time contracted roles that are more on a flat monthly rate basis. Some are on a per article basis. And there are even people that contribute photo and video content. So we have a one main Instagram account for Fitt. Then we have, I think at this point, 12 local Instagram accounts from people that are, sending in content from their community. We're always looking for people to contribute, whether it's tips or writing or photo and video content. Contact form on the website. I think it's apply-to-jobs.Fitt.co. If not, there's definitely a jobs button on the website. But there are applications that are always open, and we're constantly looking for people who are passionate about their local health and fitness community. One of the reasons that we started this, beyond it happening organically, was just the fact that as a former gym owner, I know how hard it is to get the word out about what you're trying to do, to get clients, to reach more people. So we built this in one way to help people get healthier, but we built it on the other side of that to help drive traffic for local businesses, who are doing the really hard work of helping people get healthy, helping them form exercise habits, helping them eat healthier. So any way that, we can get involved with people on the ground that are doing those things, we'd love to do that.
Great. So let's say, for example, I own a healthy eats shop or I own a gym. How would I go about advertising on your site, and what sort of cost would that involve?
Yeah, so that's a question that comes up a lot. There's really two levels to that. The first question is, well, how do I get on the Fitt site in terms of like, how do I make it into the content and things like that? We have list style posts that are maybe like the best juice bars in New York. That type of content is created and totally separate from the business. So the editorial team has 100% control over what goes into those lists based on them talking to local contributors and shareholders. So they're really doing the hard work of trying to figure out like who is the best of the best. And it's unbiased as to who can pay money to be on that list. Separate from that, there's what we call Fit for Brands. It's our, basically sponsorships and advertising opportunities. It's available at brands.Fitt.co. And there are ad products, everything from featured article content to multimedia stories, photo and video content that appears in the platform, to what we call upgraded places, to sponsored search. All of these ad products are kind of engineered with the idea of how do we drive more traffic, more targeted traffic for business owners. For example, if you were, like you mentioned, a healthy eat spot, and you wanted to show up on the map when people searched vegan or people searched vegetarian or juice, you can kind of buy those keywords. Your place will show up in the same way that a Google or a Yelp populates, sponsored search or sponsored keywords, and consumers, users will see that when they're searching for those things.
Great. And so is there a model at all for people to advertise for free?
The free would kind of be like, one, doing an amazing job and us writing about you or featuring you. Two, reaching out in terms of like, hey, we're opening a new restaurant, or we're have a new menu coming up. And again, if within the contributor base or the editorial team, they look at that and think, hey, this would be really valuable for the Fitt community. That type of stuff makes it into whether it's newsletter, site, app, so on and so forth. And then other type of like free promotions that we do are giveaways, or maybe like a marketing trade, where if somebody is hosting an event, we'll come on, we'll write about that event. We'll be like a media sponsor for the event to help them get the word out about those things. And so when it comes to like, free or trade, it's on a case by case basis, and kind of goes back to the point that we had talked about where we just like to be involved and like to know what's going on. And so the more that we know, the more we can kind of, help get people to those various things.
Yeah. And so as an end user, say I'm going to California for the weekend and I want to know like where the good fitness studios are. I put in my search for California fitness studios. Would I get a list of all fitness studios in California, or only the ones that have listed on your site?
If you're searching on Google, you'll get any number of things. Hopefully, if you search on Google, you'll land on a list that's a guide that says the best fitness studios in LA or San Francisco, or San Diego, because those are the three cities that we have coverage in California. If you happen to click on that article, you'll get a list, our curated list based on our editors and contributors. And then from there, if you kind of dig deeper into the Fitt site and start searching, maybe yoga, Pilates, interval training, things like that, you'll get places that have been added to the site. So there's a get listed feature where people can list their gym or studio. And then there's also the kind of like upgraded or premium places that I mentioned before, both or which have been added to the site either as, selected by the editorial team or a paid placement. And yeah, so you'll find a comprehensive list of fitness studios, but by no means will you get every studio in California or in Los Angeles.
But presumably the best.
Yeah. So the way that we said the best is tough, right? I mean, it's subjective, and that's, it can be difficult sometimes to have that conversation around what is or isn't in there. Part of the reason that we created Fitt is because we wanted to provide a curated, resource for people to find the things that if they found it on the Fitt site, they knew that basically somebody was standing behind it, and they didn't have to do the hard work of going and sorting through all these various studios and searches and trying some of them and maybe going and not liking it. The way that we look at it is health and fitness is already hard enough. And so for somebody to take action on those things and show to then have to go through the process of guess and check, try and fail and not find something. We wanted to alleviate all of that kind of hardship and say, if you're using the Fitt site to find these things, you're going to find something that is vetted, curated, and somebody stands behind kind of with your best interest in mind. And that's what we hope the users in our community.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I was going to ask you, do you ever list retreats?
Yeah. Good. Sorry.
So I know at the moment you're sort of US, Canada, UK based. Do you go outside of that area at all yet for retreats?
So we haven't come up with a way. Right now, everything is focused on the local angle, and to maybe advertise something that isn't locally available or is somehow like maybe cost prohibitive or location prohibitive doesn't necessarily make sense. We have done some kind of like a JetBlue, which is certainly not local, but the idea is travel, or Wanderlust Festival, who has retreats and different festivals and events all over the world. So there are times where we do it. What we're working towards actually is travel and destination, almost as a vertical within Fitt, so that it doesn't have to be specific to the city that you're in or the city that you might be traveling to. If you're just generally interested in wellness tourism, so to speak, going to a festival, a retreat, an event, that type of information will be available. And we're kind of at the early stages of figuring out where that makes sense in the platform, because you bringing it up and people bring it up to us all the time. It's certainly a huge opportunity and an area of great interest for people that live a healthier lifestyle.
Well, what I love about what you're doing is you're not only offering these places, but you're actually offering really insightful articles and the guys on the ground as well that are just really informative. And so it's not just like, hey, here's someone that's paid money and so we're listing them, but it's like, hey, here's what we think. And I love that. I think that's really valuable. And I'm hoping that you're going to move to Australia and to some Asian countries too.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that. We've kind of taken the approach that we're not going to tell people what to do. So it's not opinionated in the sense of this is good, this is bad, or it's not a review. It's a more of like a helpful insights. So we don't tell people what to do. We tell them what they could do and where to do it nearby. And by taking that approach, again, it goes back to being helpful, and making sure that they're able to make more informed decisions. And actually, funny that you mentioned Australia. We have a couple contributors right now, and we're at the early stages of launching the Sydney site, which hopefully will happen this fall. But at this point, we've introduced the Sydney Fitt newsletter. So it's a weekly newsletter that is handpicked events, openings, news for Sydney's health and fitness scene. And I believe it's fit.sydney.weekly, WEEKLY. I'll have to check on that, but it's called Fitt Weekly, and it's a local newsletter that we do in, I think, 15 of our markets right now that's dedicated to, again, handpicked by our local contributors and editors, events, openings, news, and yeah, just a highlight of what's going on in the community.
Great. That's awesome to hear. You can probably hear that I've got a bit of an Australian accent. So I'm from Sydney and I'll be returning there one day to watch out for that. So Joe, I'd love to hear your thoughts on wellness and fitness and where things are at the moment, based, I guess, on your experience with where people go on your site. What are people looking at and where do you think that's going?
Yeah, I think those are kind of two, I guess, potentially loaded questions. Where is health and fitness going? And then where do people on the site go? So what we tend to see in terms of the users, because our audience is majority millennial, young professional, and also majority women. And so we're seeing things like yoga, HIIT training studios like Orange Theory, Barry's Boot Camp, obviously Soul Cycle, things like that are very popular. So boutique studio fitness. And we're also seeing, much like, a lot of the headlines we see today around whether it's vegan or keto or people looking for vegan friendly restaurants, paleo friendly restaurants, keto friendly restaurants. So a lot of those trends are very obvious by looking at the types of stuff that both people are searching on the site and then the content that they're sharing. And so that's, very interesting in terms of what that says about that particular demographic and how they think about fitness and wellness. So it's very boutique studio based events like Wanderlust, them focusing on wanting to have experiences and spending their disposable income on experiences and not things. Also a movement towards, plant-based eating. But then there's the broader, what is like this general state of health and fitness. And that's some of the things that we dive into on Fit Insider, which is the industry focused newsletter that I write. That kind of talks about what are the broader trends outside of that. And you see things like a Planet Fitness, which is a budget gym, a low cost gym, expanding incredibly rapidly, moving into locations that have been left behind by places like Sears or other big box stores, showing that at the other end of the spectrum, although boutique studios are growing incredibly quickly, so is budget fitness. There's opportunities for people to get involved in either lower priced like fitness communities. November Project is a free workout meetup, kind of no fees attached. And there's one called Camp Gladiator, which it is paid, but it's primarily outdoors. So there's opportunities at that end too for people who might not be interested in like the boutique experience or paying $35 or $40 a class to be active as well. So it's super interesting. It's constantly evolving, and I love trying to keep up with all the things that are going on.
Yeah, and so where do you think it'll go from here? You mentioned obviously the high intensity training, and then you've also got that sort of outdoory adventure style. Do you think it's going to continue along those lines, or do you think it's going to be more people working out at home?
Yeah, I think that obviously brings up like the Pelotons of the world, the Tonal and Mirror, these connected fitness devices that are streaming workouts to, people anywhere, but at home. And then there's like the whole segment that is audio-based workouts, on-demand fitness apps. So, anywhere you are, you can pop in headphones and have a coach you through your run. There's still the whole thing around where are wearables at in all of this. So the Apple Watch, Fitbits, there's Strava, which, is primarily endurance athletes right now, but they're making a huge effort to be more of like a social network for fitness. And so with all of those things, I think the overarching trend is that fitness is finally getting kind of hit by just technology in general and innovation. For the longest time, it was going to the gym or having a treadmill and maybe a Bowflex at home. And every now and then we would get P90X or Billy Blanks and Tybo or something like that. But like that was the extent of innovation. And now what we're seeing is you can work out anywhere, anytime, with any type of trainer, with any type of modality. And I think that is the near future of what fitness is going to become, is just options. You're going to have options around what you do, where you do it, how you do it, who you do it with. And my hope is that if that's at home or in the gym or in the boutique studio or at a group fitness meetup, just this innovation and technology will enable more people to get moving. And it really doesn't matter how they're doing it or how they choose to, just that they're doing it in general.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. And Joe, do you think you'll end up having some sort of social media meetup for the end user around fitness?
I think we've done smaller ones. We've kind of co-hosted events or participated in, when like a local marathon is having like a training run or a warm-up run, things like that. I think we'd love to, but to be honest, we have a lot of work to do on the content and product side before we can, extend ourselves or maybe overextend ourselves into like physical meetups. But I'd love to, and I think it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah. So Joe, I've read some of your articles and some of them are really great. Are you actually the main author on insider.fit.co?
Yeah, my brother and co-founder Anthony and I work together on that, and I'd say he does a lot of the ideation, and I do almost all the writing.
Yeah, I loved your article, "Turn Your Weaknesses into Strengths," and you've written some really great ones. What your best in terms of, I guess, maybe hits, and also just something that you're mostly proud of?
Yeah. Wow. I feel like there's probably so much stuff out there that might have my name or byline attached to it. I think from like a kind of personal perspective, there was a period of time where I was doing writing around definitely fitness, but also like personal development. And there's an article about reaching rock bottom, and it was about basically the year that we found out that my dad had been diagnosed with cancer. I quit my job. I ended a relationship that I was in. And it was basically having to start over and like the power in starting over. And since that time, I've been steadily rebuilding. Oh, the article is called Welcome to Rock Bottom. And I think that's out there probably on Medium somewhere. And yeah, so that's kind of much different than the content that you'll find on Fitt, or Fitt Insider, which is very much industry or local fitness focused. I think on Fitt Insider, because at this point I really don't do any of the writing on the Fitt local platform. On Fitt Insider, there's an article called The Peloton of X. And so that was really around the movement that Peloton created, where they were the first mover in this connected equipment, streaming content, at-home workouts, that very quickly in the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen the Peloton of strength training, which is Tonal, the Peloton of boutique fitness, which is a company called Mirror, the Peloton of rowing, which is Hydro Row. Peloton released the Tread, which is basically the Peloton of running. And so that was an article I was very excited about that I wrote early on before these companies started really raising tens of millions of dollars.
So essentially you predicted it all.
I don't know about that. I would say that I just observed it happening.
Yeah, nice. Excellent. Well, I'll link to both of those articles, and I'd love to ask you a bit more about the Rock Bottom article.
Sure.
Has fitness and health helped you through that journey?
Absolutely.
And how so?
Yeah, I think, first and foremost, a lot of whether it's either character traits or work ethic or mindset that I approach the work I do with stems from, well, one, my family, and very grateful to have had, a great upbringing and support system. But aside from that, from athletics, from fitness, and I definitely wouldn't be at this place with the interest and passion for fitness and wellness that I have running the company that I do if I didn't play, high school and college football, if after football, I got into triathlon and multi-sport endurance racing, did that for a few years. I mean, certainly in that same time frame, was training other people. So owned a gym, was writing about fitness and wellness, all of those things. It was like the sanity, the consistency, if I couldn't control anything, any of the other things that were happening to me, I could control lacing up my shoes and going for a run, or going to the gym and trying to get, 1% better that day. And if that's all that I accomplished, because everything else was, seemingly out of my control, or, was dealing with, illness and things like that, and my family and all that, like, I could control taking care of my body, prioritizing, exercise, and just trying to be consistent in that. So 100%, I think that's played a huge role in, not just getting through that period in my life, but who I am today.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you're a multi-sport athlete and a football player, and I guess your training has probably changed a lot since then. Has your approach to health and fitness changed?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm a multi-sport athlete anymore. I play and train in a couple different sports, and but I'm not quite a triathlete anymore. I haven't done a race in probably 3 years, so I won't. I won't claim that one.
No, so how has things changed for you, say, from 3 years ago? What does your sort of health and fitness look like now? Is there a different measurable for you now?
Yeah, certainly. I'll even take you back a little bit further than that, coming from college, which was, I don't know, maybe 12 years ago, 15 years ago now. But at that time, I was 230 pounds. I was an outside linebacker. I squatted over 500 pounds. I benched over 400 pounds. And those were the measurements. How big can you get? How quickly can you run, 40 to 100 yards? And that was about it. How much can you lift? After college, got into endurance racing and got down to about 160. So at that point, it was how fast can you go? Learning how to swim, because I had never done that before I got into triathlon. So I did that for probably 4 or 5 years. And then getting now more into the present day, I'm probably 175 pounds and generally focused on just like general fitness. So my workouts look pretty much like what people today think of as CrossFit, except for I'm not prioritizing jerks or push press or overhead lifts or power cleans, things like that, although I'll do them from time to time. But it's some combination of lifting heavy weight and then running, burpees, pull-ups, rowing, and mixing those things together in a way that keeps it interesting and that I can compete with myself or, the group of people that I work out with.
Yeah, and so I assume there's a bit more focus on sort of longevity, health and fitness as opposed to those metrics of how fast can I go or how much can I lift.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been interesting to that evolution to take place because I'm 33, which I think of as still very young. And in that period of time, just thinking to myself, like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Whereas previously it was, by any means necessary. How can I get better? Whatever it takes. Today, I'm much more inclined to think about how I'm going to feel the next day or 2 or 3 days later than maybe I would have been. And, orchestrating things, whether it's pre and post workout nutrition, or certainly sleep in a way that even at the early stages of working for myself, definitely neglected sleep. Whereas now it's really not an option. And if I don't prioritize it, then I'm feeling it for, 2 or 3 days or potentially the whole week after. So yeah, definitely the metrics and measurables have changed.
And do you actually measure those through the Oura Ring or Whoop or anything like that?
No, I'm thinking about getting a Whoop. I'm very interested, excited by what they're doing. And it definitely looks like I might be getting one of those.
Yeah, you must. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your personal journey as well as everything about Fitt and insider.fit. I'm sure our listeners are going to check it out. And like I said, it's just such great information as well as excellent places to go. Joe, before I sort of let you go, I was just wondering if you had a tattoo.
That's a great question. I do not. It comes up a lot. My girlfriend has, I think, more than a couple. And I talk about it quite a bit, but I have not taken the leap yet.
She's got enough for both of you.
Yeah, she's way cooler than me, so she can pull it off. I can't. I'm not quite there yet. I'm not convinced of it.
Give it a couple more years, Joe, and you'll be cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Look, thank you. Thanks again, and I'll put everything in the show notes for our listeners.
I appreciate that. I'm really excited.
Cheers. For all the resources and show notes from today's episode, please go to www.ali.fitness. If you liked today's episode, please show your appreciation by going to iTunes, give us a 5-star review and subscribe.